Shall we start? People will join, but when we share this afterward, people won't want a load of us talking about planning at the start, so I'll try and cut up. Do you want to open up?
Yeah, sure. I'm Peter. I'm the person that's been pestering you on to join this event. I've worked with Chris, and many moons ago, I was in the class. So, when they presented this to me, I was sold straight away. But you see the value. You're in a commercial role, so anyone that likes to look at this, I'll open up at the end of today's webinar. Quick message. This is something you're interested in. I've been dealing with schools now in the classroom 8 years, without outing for about 10 now. That's my role, but one of the big founders on today's call, Chris, who will talk you through this.
Cheers, Pete. Just some general housekeeping. If you've got any questions, then via the Q&A at the top. I think chat's this, but if you want it, you can do. I'm not sure it presents itself on LinkedIn, so if you've got any questions on LinkedIn, keeping an eye on that as well. Them and share them as we, or worst case, we'll reach out after. Before I jump into Air itself, Pete's mentioned space with you all that have registered after this session. What we've done is also set up a digital room with a load of content in around there and a chance to book a meeting if you want to. So the link to that as well. If not on LinkedIn, don't worry. This is by LinkedIn, but all you have to put your name and email address to access this stuff. So I've got a few slides before I get into a demo, just to cover what Air is and how it started. So we like to think of Air as a marking assistant or a marking assessment system. I should probably that's designed like the colleague that supports you when you're marketing writing. It gives you increased pupils. It's marking, normal assessment within seconds. I mean, I'll show you this, which is dangerous, but I'll have in a minute. But around about SINS maximum. Obviously, it reduces teacher workload. I feel important at this point that we emphasize not as well. 100% not a replacement, and it's crucial because it's designed, and your feedback, it's designed to prompt conversation and support you in marking and assessing, but not to replace your role or a teacher's role in marking and assessment altogether. So why did we build it? This is the story of how it started. So I work in loads of schools. I'd gone out to see an ex-customer of mine from a previous business who was a CEO of a MAT. She was in a school doing some moderation support and was using a little bit of AI to support moderation. I looked at what she was doing with the school and was like, I'm sure we could make this a lot quicker and turn this into an actual product. Fast forward 2 weeks, Jill, who was one of our co-founders, was in this office that I'm sat in now with 2 other co-founders, and we were planning how we build this bit of software. We built it because what I witnessed on that day was a lot quicker than I'd witnessed before in terms of marking and getting feedback, but we felt it could still be a lot quicker and a lot more accurate. So we built it to take away the pressure of all those people that were in that room doing moderation on that day. Where we are now, so after going live 5 weeks ago, we've got 184 users currently who are actually using the system. We've got over 2,000 assessments in the system, so this is an actual live product. I'm pleased to say, and you'll see how easy it is in a minute, but I'm pleased to say that across those 184 users and 2,000 assessments, we've had, and I can honestly say this hand on heart, 0 support calls. My phone hasn't rang once around how do you get this in or this out or whatever. We've got a list of schools and MATs who are keen to use the system from September onwards, and obviously we have to onboard those. But we're now up to 453 schools on that list across 21 MATs and maintained schools. So without further delay, I will jump into what Air looks like. All I do, I come to the website, and you can access this website is obviously live, so anything I show you now you can find other than the login. I click login, and it will take me in true Blue Peter fashion to this page. I've got year groups 1 through to 6 here, so I'm just going to breathe before I demo the actual process and touch on secondary schools. So we have a plan for a wider offer for secondary schools, but in its current format, you can use the system for transition into year 7. And from September, October time, you'll be able to, if you've got a framework for assessing writing in your school, be that a secondary school or a primary school, you'll be able to upload that framework, access the pupils, and assess against that framework. For the purpose of today, I'm going to assess against the Key Stage 2 frameworks because it's readily available. I'm simply going to click Year 6. I've now got a list of pupils. I choose one and I add an assessment container. So if I go end of term assessment and realised I'm recording this, I keep meaning to delete it, but I've got Beard Wars in that list. I feel the need to explain it's from a previous podcast I do in education, and I had a guest on who also had a beard. So I'm going to add this assessment container, which is end of term assessment, and I've got two options. I don't know if you can see me in the bottom corner of the screen, but if I click upload from a device, I simply scan the QR code using my phone and then take a picture of the piece of work that I want to assess and mark. We do that because we don't want pictures on teachers' devices. So the picture won't land on the teacher's device. It goes straight into the database at our end. I'm not going to do that today, though. I'm just going to upload from my computer. So click, and I've got a piece of work available here. It's uploading that image, it's processing it, and what it's doing, it's creating this item here. I click on the tick, and you can see that we've got the handwritten work on the left-hand side, and we've got a translation of that handwritten work on the right-hand side. I can, if I want, take the date and the learning objective out. I could, if I wanted to, correct any issues here. It's designed to pick up on misspelt stuff and leave it as it is, so it doesn't correct anything. It just comes across as it's written. I mark that as accurate, and then all I do is click feedback and generate feedback. That's now against the Key Stage 2 framework, gone away, and it's created feedback against that piece of work. So I mentioned right at the start, it's designed to be that colleague in the room or a marking and assessment system. And that comes through with the terminology used. So it's telling you that this work provides evidence of working towards the expected standard. It's not saying this work is at the expected or working towards the expected standard. It gives you the reasoning for that assessment. It then lists any evidenced objectives. It tells you how to progress this piece of work to the next standard. And then it also gives you friendly feedback for pupils. So this can be copied and pasted out. You can export the whole thing here. You can save it to a Word document and so on. You also have more detailed feedback if you want to. If you want to access more detailed feedback for that pupil. I think I mentioned right at the start about moderation. So very rarely, if you're doing moderation at the end of a term, will you demonstrate that somebody's at greater depth from one piece of work. So just to show you that you can upload more pieces of work into this assessment container, I've now got fronted adverbials here. I'm not going to go in and correct anything. I'm just going to hit feedback, regenerate feedback. And you'll see now I've got two pieces of work. It's telling me they're working at the expected standard, not towards, or that it provides evidence of. I've got a longer list of evidence framework objectives. It tells me how to progress again, and I've got more feedback for the pupil. So that's as easy as it is to assess writing. You could have 10 pieces of work in there if you wanted to, but within that 8 seconds-ish, you're going to have all this feedback that you can then use. There's no questions coming, so I'm going to jump straight to where we're heading, really. So we've got all this. This is live now. You can use this. You can use it against the Key Stage 2 framework. Public facing, we have a product roadmap. That product roadmap allows you to book meetings with us about individual elements. So I can see here that we've recently released everything in this column. We're currently embedding your own learning objectives. So we have out of the box frameworks. So for years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we'll have a framework that's out of the box. But if you're a trust and you want to embed your own learning objectives or your own framework that you use consistently across your trust, we can do that for you. We're then looking at class groups, which ties into Wand. So from September, you will also be able to break down by class groups. You've probably seen in the system it said year group currently. But the big one that'll come between September and October is you'll be able to access gap analysis. So you'll be able to assess pieces of work as often as you want, and it will build up a picture of gap analysis over time. So if I click on this tab, it will show you the pupils down the left-hand side, the objectives across the top, and then RAG rated with a number in the middle, you will see how many times that pupil has demonstrated or that student has demonstrated that they can fulfill that learning objective. So you could have learning objective 1 is green with a 3 in the middle. That means that across all the work that you've uploaded over time, that pupil has demonstrated that they can fulfill that learning objective 3 times. And then just to demonstrate how this works, if you want to book a meeting with us about this aspect, you just scroll down and you can book a meeting with Tom, who's our product lead. So I'll go back to my slides there and see if there's any questions. Or is there anything you want to add, Pete? We can start to wrap up, and if people have got any questions, we can take them as they come.
Yeah, no, I think the beauty of what we do here it's that simple. It's only took 14 minutes to go from start to finish. It is the evolving picture. I think it's worth to mention that some of the detailed feedback and some of the conversations we've had around that, actually the value is the summary. We don't want to have War and Peace, but it's also just for you as a teacher to use that judgment and to help that summative conversation because like I say, there's a load of detail there we can share. But I was just thinking, actually, Chris, off the top of my head, for faith schools, different faith schools have different schemes of work.
Yeah.
And it's something you can throw on there as a standardization approach across a mat. Or if you're a maintained school and you want to have that in there, you can do just that. And I think the world's your oyster. We're using the national curriculum because it's a really good benchmark to have. But schemes of work, I think there's an awful lot of value in there as well. And it's going to be a growing picture.
The beauty of how it works is that it's consistent. So anyone who's done marking or moderation, it's a bit like when you advertise a job and you get 60 job applications. With the best will in the world, you get to number 10 and you need a break. AIR doesn't need a break. It consistently marks and assesses against whatever framework you want with the same level of accuracy time after time. One thing that does come up, and it's probably worth me preempting, in case there's any questions after the event, is around handwriting. So occasionally, especially with younger children, you will have handwriting that's less legible than with older children. The system runs at around about 85 to 88% accuracy. But for those pupils that the handwriting is less legible, you can either dictate into Word and copy it and paste it into the system, or we think we will release over the next couple of weeks the ability to upload a different file. So if you type into Word, you could upload the Word file. Worst case scenario, though, you just copy it and you paste it into that box that you saw on the left-hand side earlier. That's the most common question I get asked, so it's worth preempting.
I think it's also worth acknowledging the AI aspect. There's a lot of resistance, and it's not through people that not want to embrace it. It's just a lack of confidence, lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
It seems like a dirty word in education. It's not. It's probably more prevalent in the last 4 or 5 years that just without us using that word AI, and we're just literally using the tools that are there in front of us to help make your life a lot easier. So it's not a dirty word. It's a space that we can be safe in.
Yeah.
I know I've had conversations with their teachers and they've thrown back to me, the chat GPT. I think it's worth acknowledging the security aspect of our software, Chris, around the safe standards in AI. That's what ours is embedded. We're not. I'll let you talk a little bit more about that, but it's worth acknowledging that as well on the call.
Yeah, there's no issues there. We've kind of been there and done that with the stuff we've developed in the past. I led a business through international security standards, 27001. Actually had access to national data from the DFE, so I don't want anyone thinking or wondering, is this system secure? It's the top of his list of priorities. It's why we don't have images of work on people's phones either. In terms of AI, been a dirty word. We're really keen that this improves teachers or teaching and process and practice in a way that impacts in the classroom. So we've made it as simple as possible. We also wanted to make sure that there's no noise from external factors. So whatever framework you're using, whether it's the Key Stage 2 framework or your framework for different years or whatever, it doesn't go out to the wider world and look at what else is out there. It only assesses against your framework. So it does use an element of AI, but it doesn't do that bit that everyone's worried about where it goes out to the wide world and looks at an Australian framework or an American, unless of course we decide to roll it into Australia. But in the UK, it won't go out and look at frameworks in different countries. It's tailored to look at what we've told it to look at for your school, Matt, or establishment.
Yeah, and I think last point for me, sorry, each school's different, and that's why it's unique. We've had schools that say this is going to take 70-80% of our workload. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I've also spoken to schools that say we live mark. So the moderation aspect then is the value. So there's lots of areas, I think the gaps analysis, the moderation, the actual teacher workload that can shave hours off. And I think if anyone can get more time at home in front of the friends and family, I think that's really important. Yeah. But we're still giving that rich feedback, and that's what we're pushing home, that this does embed great attainment opportunities for schools. It does impact the curriculum outcomes, and hopefully it'll impact the mental health and well-being of staff as well. So it's big trigger words there, but it's not without evidence.
Yeah, and last thing I'd touch on as well is I flashed up Tom's face earlier when I showed you how to book a meeting with Tom on an individual element on the roadmap. We're really keen that this product supports schools. So if I use me as an example, I talk to a school, I come back and I go, this school said X, and it'd be great to get it into air, and we're really keen that we put that out to the wider community. So Tom will often say to me, Chris, get me 5 to 10 schools and let's talk about it in a wider context. So if you sat watching this and you go, well, what about this or what about that, whether you're watching it now or retrospectively, get involved. If you like the product but you'd like to know a bit more, or you've got an idea how to improve it, jump on the website, book a meeting with Tom, get involved. We see this as, I know it sounds really corny, but we see it as your product. So we just want your feedback around how it works. Pete will reach out around how we can do that as well a little bit through in a commercial sense. So yeah, it's for you. Is how I'd summarise it, I guess.
Perfect. Nothing else for me to add. I know we did say we might be doing a few more of these because this isn't just we've got a few strings to our bow. So look out for invites to other AI and read products as well.
Actually, Pete, really good point. That we are. If there's anyone from around the South Yorkshire area watching this, we're putting on a meet and mark in October, so you can bring along some work. You can run it through the system. You can see how it marks your work and feel confident that it's doing what you want it to do. We're really keen to do that in other areas as well. So if you've got a room in your school that you're willing to let us come in, let's have a chat about how we make that work for you and us. You can do that through Pete, but we'd love to do meet and mark all over the country where we've got schools coming in and actually testing the system with their work. It gives you the confidence that it's doing what you want it to do. So again, reach out to Pete with that, but that's something we're really keen on.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of them are out in Kent as we speak, aren't they? So yeah, like I said.
Oh no, one. We got a second one. So there's one in Kent and one in Rotherham.
All right. So it's even some more. Oh, well, yeah. So yeah, look, it's free of charge. We really want to make this big, and it's with your help.
Perfect. Well, I'll close this meeting down, and like Pete said, he'll follow up afterwards with everyone who's registered.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone. See you later. Bye.